They say ignorance is bliss, but I'd argue that stupidity is more entertaining, especially when you're watching it unfold in real time. My name is Mason Pryor, and for the past 6 months I've been the star of my own personal comedy show, complete with a cheating wife, her sleazy boyfriend, and a supporting cast of backstabbing friends who think I'm too dense to notice the obvious. I should have seen it coming when Tessa started wearing makeup to the grocery store. "Honey, I'm running to get milk," she'd announce, applying lipstick like she was heading to a photo shoot instead of aisle 3 at Save Mart. My wife of 14 years, mother of our 12-year-old daughter Ellie, had suddenly developed an interest in looking her best for mundane errands. The transformation was subtle at first. New workout clothes that cost more than my monthly car payment. A sudden obsession with her phone that had her texting during dinner, during movies, during our daughter's soccer games. When I asked about it, she'd flash that practice smile and say, "Just work stuff, babe." Work stuff, right. Tessa managed social media for a local marketing firm, hardly the kind of job that required emergency texts at 10 p.m. on a Sunday. But I played along, nodding and making appropriate husband noises while she spun her elaborate web of lies. The real kicker came 3 weeks ago when I found a pregnancy test in our bathroom trash. Positive. 2 bright pink lines staring up at me like a cosmic joke. "Tessa," I called out, holding the plastic stick like evidence in a murder trial. "Want to explain this?" She glanced over from where she was applying yet another coat of mascara. "Oh, that. I thought I might be pregnant when I had that stomach bug last month. False alarm, obviously. False alarm. Obviously. Except Tessa hadn't had a stomach bug. She'd claimed food poisoning from lunch with her girlfriends, the same lunch where, according to her friend Jess's Instagram story, they'd spent 3 hours at Rick's Fitness talking to the owner about wellness journeys and life changes. Rick. Delaney. Tessa's high school boyfriend. The guy who drove a souped-up Jeep Wrangler with custom rims and a sound system that announced his presence 3 blocks away. The same Rick who'd been sliding into my wife's DMs with the subtlety of a freight train. I knew because I'd seen the messages. Not through some elaborate spy operation. Tessa had simply gotten sloppy. She'd left her laptop open on the kitchen counter, Facebook Messenger displaying their conversation in all its cringe-worthy glory. "Can't wait to see you tonight," Rick had written. "Mason working late again?" "Always," Tessa had replied. "He's so focused on that promotion, he barely notices I'm alive." Barely notices. That stung more than it should have. The truth was, I'd been working extra shifts at Henderson's Auto Repair to save money for Ellie's college fund. Tessa knew this. She'd been the one pushing me to take the foreman position, claiming we needed the financial security. Apparently, what we really needed was for her to reconnect with her high school glory days. I closed the laptop and went back to pretending everything was normal. What else could I do? Confront her with screenshots? Demand explanations? I'd watched enough daytime television to know how that story ended. Tears, denials, and a messy divorce that would destroy Ellie's world. So I waited, and watched, and planned. The pregnancy test was the final piece of a puzzle I'd been reluctant to solve. Either Tessa was cheating and pregnant with another man's child, or she was cheating and lying about being pregnant to cover her tracks. Neither option painted a flattering picture of my marriage. "Dad, you okay?" Ellie appeared in the doorway, backpack slung over her shoulder, ready for school. At 12, she was already showing signs of inheriting her mother's beauty, and thankfully, what I hoped was my common sense. "Just thinking, kiddo." I ruffled her dark hair, so much like Tessa's before the expensive highlights. "You need a ride today?" "Mom's dropping me off." She has a meeting downtown afterward. Ellie's expression suggested she found this as suspicious as I did. Kids notice more than adults give them credit for. "Another meeting?" I kept my voice neutral. "She's been busy lately." "Yeah, with that Rick guy from the gym. She says he's helping her with a fitness campaign for work, but—" Ellie shrugged, the gesture loaded with 12-year-old wisdom. "Out of the mouths of babes." "But what, sweetheart?" "Nothing. Just seems weird that work meetings happen at night, and on weekends. Tessa appeared in the kitchen, car keys jingling, looking like she'd stepped off a magazine cover. "Ready, Elle?" "Don't want to be late." I watched them leave, Tessa's SUV disappearing down our suburban street, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not heartbreak. I'd moved past that weeks ago. This was something else, something calculating. My phone buzzed with a text from Cal, my buddy at the shop. "Drinks tonight?" "Sarah's got book club and I'm not sitting through another episode of The Bachelor." I typed back, "Rain check. I've got some research to do." And I did. It was time to stop being the clueless husband and start being the guy who fought back. Tessa and Rick thought they were playing chess while I fumbled around with checkers. They were about to learn that I'd been studying the board all along. The thing about surveillance is that it's incredibly boring until it isn't. I'd been sitting in my truck outside Rick's fitness for 45 minutes, nursing a gas station coffee and questioning my life choices, when Tessa's white SUV pulled into the parking lot. She'd told me she was having dinner with her sister. Her sister lived 200 miles away. I watched through my windshield as she practically bounced out of the driver's seat, checking her reflection in the side mirror before walking toward the gym's entrance. She was wearing the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year, the one she'd claimed was too fancy for our dinner at Olive Garden. Apparently, it was just fancy enough for Rick. The gym officially closed at 9 p.m. It was now 9:30, and the parking lot was empty except for Rick's obnoxious Jeep, Tessa's SUV, and my increasingly suspicious presence in the shadows. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Through the large front windows, I could see them clearly. Rick had dimmed the lights, but not enough to hide what was happening inside. They weren't having sex. I'd braced myself for that possibility, but they were definitely having something. Tessa was perched on the reception desk, while Rick stood between her legs, his hands on her thighs, their faces inches apart. The intimacy of it hit harder than outright nudity would have. I zoomed in, capturing Rick's smug expression as he whispered something that made Tessa throw her head back and laugh. The same laugh she used to save for my jokes, back when I was funny enough to earn it. My phone vibrated with a text from Tessa. "Dinner running late." "Don't wait up." I screenshotted the message, adding it to my growing collection of evidence. 20 minutes later, they emerged from the gym, Rick's arm around Tessa's waist like he owned her. They kissed by her car, not a passionate movie kiss, but something worse. Comfortable. Familiar. The kind of kiss that suggested this wasn't their first rodeo. Rick said something that made Tessa giggle like a teenager, and she playfully swatted his chest before getting into her SUV. He waited until she drove away before climbing into his Jeep, music thumping loud enough to wake the dead. I followed Tessa home, staying far enough back to avoid detection. She beat me by 10 minutes, just enough time to change clothes and pretend she'd been there all evening. "How was dinner with Lisa?" I asked when I walked through the front door. "Good. She's doing well. Sends her love." Tessa didn't even look up from her phone. "How was your night?" "Enlightening." She glanced at me then, something flickering across her face. Suspicion? Guilt? It was gone too quickly to tell. "I'm going to bed," she announced. "Early meeting tomorrow." Another meeting, of course. I waited until I heard the shower running upstairs before opening my laptop and uploading the videos I'd taken. The footage was clear enough to identify both parties, damning enough to end a marriage, and devastating enough to destroy the carefully constructed lie my wife had been living. But I wasn't ready to pull that trigger yet. Instead, I opened a new browser window and started researching Rick Delaney. Social media made stalking remarkably easy. Within an hour, I knew his business address, his workout schedule, his favorite restaurants, and his complete romantic history based on tagged photos and relationship status updates. The guy was a walking midlife crisis. 42 years old, never married, living in a downtown apartment that probably cost more than my mortgage. His gym was struggling. I could tell from the declining number of check-ins and the increasingly desperate promotional posts. Rick was the kind of man who drove a $60,000 vehicle while his business circled the drain. The kind who thought sleeping with a married woman made him a winner instead of a cliché. I was going to enjoy destroying him. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw your wife at Rick's place last weekend. Thought you should know. A friend. I stared at the message for a long moment before deleting it. Someone else had noticed. The secret was spreading, which meant I was running out of time to control the narrative. Upstairs, the shower stopped. I closed the laptop and headed to the kitchen, grabbing a beer from the refrigerator and settling at the table to wait. Tessa appeared 15 minutes later, hair wrapped in a towel, wearing the silk pajamas I'd given her for Christmas. "You're up late," she observed, opening the refrigerator and pulling out a bottle of wine. Couldn't sleep. Thinking about work. She poured herself a generous glass of Chardonnay. The promotion? Among other things. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken truths filling the space between us. I studied her face, looking for traces of the woman I'd married, the mother of my child, the person I'd trusted with my heart and my future. She was still beautiful, still charming when she wanted to be. But there was something hollow about her now, something performative in the way she moved through our shared life. "Mason," she said finally, "are we okay? You've been distant lately." The question was so loaded with irony that I almost laughed. "Have I? You barely talk to me anymore. You work all the time. When you are home, you're—" She gestured vaguely. "I don't know. Different." "Different how?" "Watching. Like you're waiting for something to happen. Smart woman." "Stupid choices, but smart." "Maybe I am," I said. She set down her wine glass, studying my face. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm tired, Tessa. Tired of working extra shifts to save for Ellie's future while you spend money we don't have on clothes and gym memberships. Tired of eating dinner alone because you're always at meetings. Tired of feeling like a stranger in my own house." It wasn't the whole truth, but it wasn't a lie either. "I'm building my career," she said defensively. "The fitness campaign could be huge for the agency. Rick's connections in the wellness industry." Rick's connections. I let the words hang in the air. "Tell me about Rick, Tessa." Something shifted in her expression. The mask slipped just enough for me to see the panic underneath. "What do you want to know?" "He's a client. A potential client. We're developing a social media strategy for his gym." "At 9:30 at night?" "We're both busy during normal business hours." "Right, of course." I finished my beer and stood up. "I'm going to bed. Try not to wake me when you sneak out for your next meeting." I left her sitting at the kitchen table, wine glass trembling in her hand, and climbed the stairs to our bedroom. Tomorrow, I'd start phase 2 of my plan. Tonight, I'd let her wonder how much I knew. The answer was everything, but she'd figure that out soon enough. Cal Martinez had been my best friend since high school, which made him uniquely qualified to recognize when I was about to do something spectacularly stupid. "You want to what now?" He set down his beer and stared at me across the table at Murphy's Tavern, our usual Thursday night hangout spot. "I want to expose them. Publicly. Completely. Make sure everyone in town knows exactly what kind of people they are. And you think this is a good idea because they think I'm an idiot. They think they can lie to my face, destroy my marriage, and walk away without consequences." Cal leaned back in his chair, studying my face. We'd known each other for 25 years, and he could read my moods better than anyone except maybe Ellie. "Mason, I get it. I really do. But have you considered just talking to a lawyer? Getting a divorce? Taking the high road?" "The high road is overrated. The high road keeps you out of jail." I pulled out my phone and showed him the videos I'd taken at Rick's gym. Cal watched in silence, his expression growing darker with each frame. "Jesus, Mason, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be helpful. I need someone I trust to help me make this right." "Define right." I outlined my plan. It was elegant in its simplicity and devastating in its execution. No violence, no illegal activity, just strategic exposure of the truth in the most humiliating way possible. Cal listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or wincing at particularly creative details. "You've really thought this through," he said when I finished. "I've had time to think." "And you're sure this is what you want?" "Once you start this, there's no going back. They started it when they decided to make me the joke. I'm just changing the punchline." He was quiet for a long moment, then raised his beer bottle. To revenge served ice cold. To revenge served publicly. We clinked bottles, and I felt something settle in my chest. Relief, maybe, or anticipation. Phase 1 began the next morning. I'd learned Rick's routine through careful observation. Every Friday at 7 a.m., he stopped at Starbucks on 5th Street before heading to the gym. He parked in the same spot, a handicapped space, despite having no visible disability, and left his precious Jeep unlocked because nobody would dare mess with it. Rick clearly didn't know me very well. I arrived at 6:30, armed with supplies I'd purchased with cash from 3 different stores. Nothing illegal, nothing dangerous, just items that would create maximum embarrassment with minimum legal exposure. First, I placed a magnetic sign on each side of his Jeep. "Honk if you've slept with a married woman," in bright red letters. Then I zip-tied several pool noodles to his roof rack, creating a rainbow mohawk that would be impossible to remove quickly. The pièce de résistance was a carefully constructed trail of birdseed leading from his driver's seat to the parking lot, guaranteed to attract every pigeon in a 3-block radius. I was back in my truck, camera ready, when Rick emerged from Starbucks at 7:15. The look on his face when he saw his modified vehicle was worth every minute of planning. Confusion gave way to rage, then to embarrassment as other customers began pointing and laughing. The honking started immediately. Apparently, Rick had more conquests than I'd realized. He spent 20 minutes trying to remove the zip ties with his bare hands, while pigeons swarmed his interior. Every few seconds, another car would honk, and Rick would look around frantically, his face growing redder with each passing moment. I got it all on video. Phase 2 launched that afternoon. Tessa's weakness had always been social media. She curated her online presence like a museum exhibit, carefully crafting an image of the perfect wife and mother. Her Instagram feed was a masterpiece of selective editing. Family photos that excluded me, workout selfies at Rick's gym, inspirational quotes about living your truth and following your heart. I'd been monitoring her accounts for weeks, noting the patterns in her posts, the timing of her updates, the way she interacted with Rick's content. She liked every photo he posted within minutes of publication. He did the same for her. It was nauseating and incredibly useful. I created a fake account using photos I'd found online and started following both of them. Then I began commenting on their posts, asking innocent questions that highlighted the inconsistencies in their stories. On Tessa's photo from dinner with Lisa, I wrote, "Isn't that the restaurant next to Rick's gym?" Small world. On Rick's post about building authentic relationships, I commented, "Nothing more authentic than a married woman, right?" Subtle, pointed, designed to plant seeds of doubt in anyone paying attention. The real breakthrough came when I discovered Rick's business was in financial trouble. A quick search of public records revealed 3 months of unpaid rent, outstanding invoices from equipment suppliers, and a pending lawsuit from a former employee. Rick's fitness was dying, and Rick was too proud to admit it. I made a few phone calls, posing as a potential investor interested in acquiring struggling fitness businesses. The information I gathered painted a picture of a man desperately trying to maintain appearances while his world collapsed around him. Perfect. That evening, Tessa announced she'd be working late again. "Another meeting with Rick?" I asked innocently. She hesitated just long enough to confirm my suspicions. "Among others." "We're finalizing the campaign proposal." "On a Friday night?" "The fitness industry doesn't follow traditional schedules, Mason. You wouldn't understand. I wouldn't understand. Right. After she left, I called Ellie into the living room for what I'd been dreading most, the conversation about what was happening to our family. Dad, I know Mom's cheating on you. The words hit me like a physical blow, not because they were untrue, but because my 12-year-old daughter had figured out what I'd been pretending not to see. Ellie, I'm not stupid. She's always texting that Rick guy. She lies about where she's going. She bought new underwear and hid it in the back of her drawer. Ellie's voice was matter of fact, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. Are you getting divorced? I sat down beside her on the couch, trying to find words that would make sense of a senseless situation. I don't know yet, kiddo. But whatever happens, it's not your fault, and it doesn't change how much I love you. What about Mom? That was the question I'd been avoiding. What about Tessa? Did I still love the woman who was systematically destroying our family? Or had I already moved past love into something colder and more calculating? I love the mom you deserve to have, I said finally. I'm not sure that's the same person anymore. Ellie nodded, wise beyond her years. Are you going to fight for us? Yes, I said, and meant it. I'm going to fight. What I didn't tell her was that the fight had already begun. The beautiful thing about small towns is that everyone knows everyone else's business. The terrible thing about small towns is that everyone knows everyone else's business. By Monday morning, half of Henderson knew about Rick's decorated Jeep incident. By Tuesday, the other half had heard about it. By Wednesday, people were actively looking for more entertainment. I was happy to provide it. Rick's gym was located in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation office. The kind of place where gossip spread faster than a grease fire, and secrets had the lifespan of morning coffee. I'd spent Sunday evening crafting the perfect anonymous tip for the local health department. Nothing false, nothing malicious, just legitimate concerns about expired certifications, equipment maintenance, and proper sanitization procedures. The kind of routine inspection that every business should welcome. Unless, of course, that business was cutting corners to save money. The health inspector arrived Thursday morning with a clipboard and a no-nonsense attitude. I watched from the coffee shop across the street as Rick scrambled to address violations that should have been handled months ago. Expired first aid supplies, broken safety equipment, cleaning products stored improperly near the locker rooms. Rick's fitness failed its inspection spectacularly. The notice of violations was posted on the front door where everyone could see it. Rick would have 30 days to address the issues and schedule a re-inspection, assuming he could afford the necessary repairs. I was betting he couldn't. That afternoon, I received a text from an unknown number. Stop. Just one word, but I recognized the tone. Rick had figured out he was being targeted, even if he didn't know by whom. I texted back, "Stop what? You know what?" "I'm afraid I don't. Could you be more specific?" My phone rang immediately. Rick's voice was tight with barely controlled rage. "Listen, you pathetic piece of garbage. I don't know what game you think you're playing, but it ends now." "I'm sorry. Who is this?" "You know damn well who this is." "Actually, I don't. But you sound upset. Maybe you should talk to someone about that. A therapist, perhaps. Or a priest." The line went quiet for a moment. When Rick spoke again, his voice was dangerously low. "Stay away from my business. Stay away from my life. And stay away from Tessa." "Tessa? That's my wife's name." "Are you threatening my wife?" "I'm warning you. No, you're threatening a married woman. That's interesting. Should I call the police, or would you prefer to explain to them why you think you have some claim on another man's wife?" I hung up before he could respond. Round 2 went to me. Friday brought unexpected complications in the form of my former friends Dave and Jennifer Walsh. We'd been close for years, double dates, backyard barbecues, kids' birthday parties. They knew Tessa, they knew Rick, and they'd apparently chosen sides. "We need to talk," Dave said. when he cornered me at the grocery store. About what? About what you're doing to Rick. I almost laughed. What I'm doing to Rick? That's interesting. What exactly do you think I'm doing? Jennifer appeared beside her husband, arms crossed, wearing the expression of someone who'd already made up her mind. We know you're behind the health department inspection, she said. And the thing with his car. And those weird comments on social media. That's quite an accusation. Do you have proof? We don't need proof, Dave said. We know you, Mason. You're not handling this well. Handling what well? They exchanged glances, and I realized they knew about the affair. Not only knew about it, but had apparently decided it was my fault for not being a good enough husband. Look, Jennifer said, we understand you're hurt. But Tessa's happy, really happy. Maybe it's time to consider what's best for everyone. Everyone? You, Tessa, Ellie. Rick. This whole situation is ugly, and you're making it worse. I stared at them, these people I'd considered family, and felt something cold and final settle in my chest. Let me make sure I understand, I said slowly. My wife is cheating on me with Rick Delaney. You know about it. And your advice is that I should… What? Step aside gracefully? Make it easier for them? We're saying maybe there's a reason she found someone else, Dave said. The words hit like a slap. These weren't neutral parties trying to mediate a difficult situation. These were Rick's allies, possibly recruited by him to pressure me into backing down. I see, I said. Well, thank you for clarifying where you stand. It makes my next decisions much easier. I walked away before they could respond, leaving them standing in the cereal aisle looking confused and slightly worried. They should have been worried. That night, I sat Ellie down for another difficult conversation. Some of our friends are going to say things about me, I told her. Mean things. They're going to make it sound like what's happening with Mom is my fault. Is it? No, sweetheart. When people make promises to each other, like marriage promises, it's their job to keep those promises or ask to be released from them honestly. What Mom's doing isn't honest. What are you going to do? I looked at my daughter, this amazing person Tessa and I had created together, and made a decision that would change everything. I'm going to make sure the truth comes out. All of it. And then I'm going to make sure you and I are okay, no matter what happens. Will people hate you? Some will. But the people who matter will understand. I hoped that was true. Saturday morning brought the final piece of my puzzle in the form of a phone call from Rick's landlord. I'd been cultivating this relationship for 2 weeks, posing as a potential tenant interested in the space next to the gym. That fitness place is closing, he told me. 3 months behind on rent, and the owner just told me he can't make the payments. I'm starting eviction proceedings Monday. That's too bad, I said. Seemed like a nice business. Nice doesn't pay the bills. You still interested in the space? Very interested. By Sunday evening, I'd secured a lease on the storefront next to Rick's gym. My plan was to open a small auto repair satellite office. Nothing fancy, just a place to do basic maintenance and oil changes. Right next door to the man who was sleeping with my wife. The irony was delicious. Tessa came home Sunday night glowing with excitement about some amazing opportunity Rick had presented to her. Apparently, he was planning to expand his business model, maybe open a second location, and wanted her to handle all the marketing. It could be huge for my career, she said, eyes bright with possibility. I nodded and made appropriate, supportive husband sounds while mentally calculating how much money she'd already invested in Rick's failing business. The new clothes, the gym membership she never used, the expensive dinners she claimed were networking events. Tessa had been funding her own affair, and she didn't even realize it. That sounds wonderful, I said. I'm sure Rick appreciates having someone so talented in his corner. She beamed at the compliment, completely missing the sarcasm. Tomorrow I'd begin the final phase of my plan. The part where everything came together in a spectacular, public, undeniable revelation that would leave no room for lies or excuses. The part where I stopped being the victim and became the victor. Rick and Tessa thought they were writing a love story. I was about to show them it was actually a tragedy. The thing about revenge is that it's most satisfying when your targets see it coming but can't stop it. Like watching a slow-motion car crash where the drivers have plenty of time to hit the brakes but choose to accelerate instead. Monday morning, I put my plan into motion. The first domino fell at 9 a.m. when Rick's landlord served him with eviction papers. I watched from my new office next door as Rick stood in his gym's doorway, reading the legal documents with growing horror. 3 months behind on rent. 30 days to vacate. No exceptions. The second domino fell an hour later when the equipment financing company arrived to repossess the treadmills and weight machines Rick had defaulted on. Apparently, when you stop making payments, creditors get cranky. Rick's gym was being systematically dismantled while he stood helplessly in the middle of it all. But the real masterpiece was still to come. I'd spent weeks preparing for this moment, gathering evidence, documenting lies, and building an airtight case that would destroy both Rick and Tessa in the most public way possible. The key was Tessa's own social media obsession. She'd been posting constantly about her exciting new project and her amazing business partner. Photos of herself at the gym, inspirational quotes about following your dreams, and carefully cropped images that showed just enough of Rick to make their relationship obvious to anyone paying attention. What Tessa didn't know was that I'd been screenshotting everything. Every post, every comment, every interaction between her and Rick. I'd created a comprehensive timeline of their affair, complete with dates, locations, and her own words describing their connection. At noon, I launched the final assault. I created a Facebook post on my own account, the account Tessa had insisted I barely use because social media wasn't my thing. The account connected to all our mutual friends, family members, and professional contacts. The post was simple, devastating, and completely factual. After 14 years of marriage, I've discovered that my wife Tessa has been having an affair with Rick Delaney, owner of Rick's Fitness. Rather than confront them privately and allow them to control the narrative, I've decided to share the truth publicly. Below are screenshots of their social media interactions, photos of them together, and documentation of the lies Tessa has told to cover their relationship. I'm not seeking sympathy or support, just transparency. Our daughter deserves to know that her father fought for the truth, even when it was ugly. Then I posted everything. The timeline of lies, the photos from Rick's gym, the screenshots of their flirtatious social media exchanges. The evidence of Rick's business failures and Tessa's financial support of his failing venture. I tagged them both. Within minutes, the comments started pouring in. Friends expressing shock and support. Family members demanding explanations. Acquaintances who'd suspected something but hadn't wanted to get involved. My phone started ringing immediately. First Cal, offering to come over. Then my brother in Phoenix, asking if I needed anything. Then Tessa's sister, apologizing for not seeing the signs sooner. But the call I was waiting for came at 12:30. "What the hell have you done?" Tessa's voice was shaking with rage and panic. "I told the truth. You should try it sometime. Take it down. Take it all down right now. No. Mason, please. Think about Ellie. Think about our family. I am thinking about Ellie. I'm thinking she deserves to know her father isn't a coward who let people walk all over him. This is insane. You're destroying everything." "I'm not destroying anything, Tessa. You already did that. I'm just making sure everyone knows who swung the wrecking ball." She hung up. Rick called 5 minutes later. "You're a dead man," he said without preamble. "Is that a threat?" "Because I'm recording this call, and threatening someone's life is a felony. You've ruined everything. My business, my reputation. Your business was already ruined. I just helped people notice. As for your reputation, that's what happens when you sleep with married women. Actions have consequences. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Your gym is closed. Your equipment is repossessed. Your landlord is evicting you. And now, everyone in town knows exactly what kind of man you are. It's very much over. He hung up, but I wasn't worried about retaliation. Rick was the kind of man who was dangerous only when he thought he had the upper hand. Now that he'd been publicly humiliated and financially destroyed, he'd slink away to find easier prey. The afternoon brought a steady stream of visitors to my house, neighbors offering support, friends apologizing for not speaking up sooner. Even Dave and Jennifer Walsh, looking sheepish and ashamed. "We were wrong," Jennifer said. We didn't understand the whole situation." "No," I said. "You understood perfectly. You just chose the wrong side." They left without argument. Ellie came home from school to find me sitting on the front porch, fielding phone calls and watching the neighborhood drama unfold. "Dad?" Everyone's talking about the Facebook thing. Kids at school were showing me their parents' phones. I set down my phone and looked at my daughter. "Are you okay with what I did?" She considered the question seriously. "Are you?" "Yes." "Then I'm okay with it too." Mom's been lying to both of us. At least now everyone knows the truth. That evening, Tessa came home to collect some clothes. She looked exhausted, defeated, and older than her 35 years. "Where will you go?" I asked. "Rick's apartment. Until I figure things out." Rick's apartment is about to be Rick's cardboard box. He's broke, Tessa. Completely broke. The gym was failing. He's months behind on everything, and he's been using you to try to keep it afloat. She stared at me, and I saw the moment she realized how thoroughly she'd been played. Not just by me, but by Rick. He said he was building something amazing. He said we were partners. You were partners. You were the partner with money and credit and a stable marriage to steal from. He was the partner with nothing to lose. Tears started falling then, and for a moment I felt something that might have been pity. "I know you hate me," she said. "I don't hate you, Tessa. I hate what you did. I hate what you chose. But I don't hate you. Can we fix this? Can we try counseling or—" "No." The word hung in the air between us, final and absolute. "I'll file for divorce tomorrow," she said quietly. "I already filed. You'll be served Wednesday." She nodded, accepting defeat with more grace than I'd expected. After she left, I sat in my living room with Ellie, watching a movie and eating takeout pizza. It felt normal in a way our family dinners hadn't felt in months. "Dad," Ellie said during a commercial break, "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For fighting back. For not letting them win." I looked at my daughter, this incredible person who'd emerged from the wreckage of my marriage stronger and wiser than she had any right to be, and realized something important. I had won. Not because I'd destroyed Rick's business or exposed Tessa's lies, but because I'd shown Ellie that people should fight for what matters. That truth is worth defending, even when it's painful. That sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. 6 months later, Rick left town without a forwarding address. Tessa moved in with her sister and started over in a new city. I got full custody of Ellie and bought out Tessa's half of the house. My auto repair satellite office next to the former gym became surprisingly profitable. Turns out people appreciate honest service from someone who fights for what's right. And sometimes, late at night when I'm closing up the shop, I think about the choice I made to stop being a victim and start being a victor. It wasn't pretty and it wasn't easy, but it was right. Some stories don't have happy endings. But this one had a true ending, and sometimes that's even better.